If you have goals that matter to you and you're working towards them, but you have that little bit of doubt as to whether or not they're actually going to work, then this video is for you. It's not for people that don't know what they want. I've made other videos that cover that. This is for people that set goals, they make plans, they take action, but then they're wondering, can I actually achieve this? I'm sure that you recognise the pattern. You start with 100% enthusiasm, you feel super motivated, you have absolute clarity, but then momentum starts to thin. You don't stop entirely, but you're not really doing what you said you were going to do. And that discomfort is important. It's information. That's our access point. I want to show you how you can recognise if you're operating from an internal map that is no longer serving you and what you can do about it. First of all, we need to look at goals in a slightly different way. Think of a goal as something that you have set within your territory. Now, the territory is not a fixed place. It's a field of possibility. It's all potentiality. And there are multiple directions that you can go to achieve this goal that you have placed. We don't move through the territory directly, and there can be a multitude of obstacles that come in our way that we have to navigate. We navigate using maps, but the map is not the territory. The map is a representation of where we are now and where we need to go and what we might encounter on the way and what we need to do. But it's a strategy. Now, we don't use the same map for everything. We have different maps for different things. We have different maps for different contexts. We have different maps for different goals and different outcomes. So the problem isn't really the goal, and it's not that the goal is not achievable, and it's not that it's the wrong goal. The problem is in the navigation. We're navigating new terrain from an old map that it wasn't designed for. Most people are operating from a very old map, a map that was designed when we were too young to know what we were doing. At this stage of life, the map only had to do a few things. It needed to keep you safe, it needed to help you stay connected, and it needed to make sure you were loved and accepted enough to survive. The map was built through experience, through family dynamics, through social conditioning, and what worked and didn't work. And it was a very intelligent map for that stage of life. The issue is not that the map still exists. The issue is that the map has not been updated because people grow, goals change, responsibilities change, and the underlying navigation system no longer works. It's no longer fit for purpose. You see, these outdated maps break down in adulthood, and that leaves us to rely on motivation, determination, enthusiasm, which are real forces, but they just don't last. They're finite, they spike and they fade. And when they do, guess what's left? Your old, outdated navigation system. And that navigation system was built for safety and approval. And it will quietly resist any goal that requires uncertainty, discomfort, or delayed reward. And this is very, very subtle. It does it through hesitation, doubt, inconsistency, and exhaustion that doesn't really make sense. And that is often when people think that they are failing, but they're not. The map simply isn't designed for the terrain that they're asking it to navigate. So, how do you recognise that you are using an outdated map? Because there are ways to recognise this. Number one, the clearest is the internal dialogue around your goal. When you think about what you want to achieve, what voice shows up? Not the surface motivation talk, the quieter one underneath. Thoughts like, I'm not sure that this is going to work for me. I know that other people can do it, but they started years ago. I should have started this years ago. This is not realistic. I'm living in the clouds. That kind of dialogue is not the truth. That's the navigation feedback from the outdated map. Another sign is inconsistency. If you struggle to do the small repeated action your goals require, even when you know they matter, it's not usually a discipline issue. It's often that your system hasn't assigned enough reward value to the long-term outcome over the short-term comfort. The map prioritises immediate safety and ease and not future payoff. Another sign is how you relate to slow or unclear progress. If results take time, if feedback is ambiguous, if the path isn't immediately visible, and that causes you to lose trust or momentum, that tells you something about your tolerance for ambiguity, the unknown. Again, not a personal flaw, just a map limitation. Many people recognise this pattern because they've set the same goal before, with the same hope and then the same doubt, and then the same inconsistency. And this familiarity is not coincidence, because it's the same map that was used as before. So what I want to suggest to you, instead of forcing, instead of giving up, instead of battering yourself with endless negative self-talk, get curious about the resistance and reorientate. Before you ask yourself more questions about how you get there, ask yourself, where am I now? I'm going to give you a sequence. First of all, ask yourself, where am I right now? What internal assumptions am I operating from? Are they true? What happens if I flip those assumptions? What happens if the opposite is true? What feels solid? What feels strained? And then I want you to think about values. What genuinely matters to you at this stage of life? What's important to you? And then who do you believe yourself to be in relation to what matters? Is this identity current? Or is it a role that I learned to play a long time ago? And then we look at behaviour. How does my behaviour align with my values and my identity? Or am I asking behaviour to compensate for some sort of misalignment upstream? When your identity and your values are aligned, your behaviour stabilises. And when they're not, your behaviour is effortful and unreliable. If your values, behaviour and identity are aligned, that's when you have self-worth. That's when you're confident, even when clarity disappears. If you have goals that you're moving toward, but you're doubting yourself, it does not mean you're incapable. It's not a sign that you should not continue. It's not a sign that you should give up. It usually means that you're navigating from a childhood map. So the question is not whether or not the goal is possible. The question is whether or not you're willing to update the internal map that's going to carry you through. Goals are easy to start. The hard part is staying consistent when there's no evidence that what you're doing is working. And that's when it's time to update your map. If these conversations interest you, stay tuned, maybe even leave a comment and let me know what goals you're working towards. I'll send you some free tools, maybe you even want to join my community. I've got some exciting things that I'm about to launch and I'm looking for some people to experiment on. Thank you.